So shall we call the meeting to order?
Hold on real quick. Okay, go ahead.
Call the meeting to order at 1:33 p.m.
Okay. Rudy Castellano,
Present.
Mike Sweeney, Mike Cousins,
Present.
Maria Gilberry. You are muted. Mike Martinez,
Present.
Travis Hearn.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Okay.
Why can't I hear?
So with that, yes,
Mr. Chairman, it's Rudy.
Rudy.
If there's no other additions to the agenda, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Mike Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Move to approval of the minutes of the December 14th meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Rudy.
having duly read the minutes beforehand, I didn't see anything wrong with them. So I make a motion that we approve the December 14th minutes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Rudy and a second by Mike Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The minutes have been approved. Do we have anybody for public input?
We do not.
Okay, we'll scrap that. Move to business items. Committee recommendations. Approval of resolution number 22-02 to apply for the American Rescue Plan Act grant offer in the amount of $22,000 for the airport. Maria, yeah.
Okay. So the city was approached or provided an opportunity for a grant of $22,000 from the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. The $22,000 is specifically to be used for things related to health and safety and COVID. So it can be used for janitorial equipment. It can be used for any cleaning supplies. It can also be used for operations related to operations and maintenance related to the facility. So we are looking into if it can be used for equipment, but we are aware it can be used for like the installation of a water line for sanitary reasons. So there are a few things we would like to use the $22,000 for. We are going to get clarification again on if it can be used for equipment. If not, it will be used for materials and supplies and improvements to the water system out there. So we do need an approved resolution from the city council to allow us to apply for these funds that we're pretty much likely to receive.
I had a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman and Maria.
Yes.
The first question had to do with Mr. Maestas, is he an acting officer of this American Rescue and Plan Act?
The city manager, Maestas, is, there's a term for it. He's basically the representative for the city. And then
Okay.
the finance director, it would be hold the finance position.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you. The other question I had was the subject. It's the subject of to the requirements in 2 CFR payments of, is it 235, 200? I guess 200,000 or $200, and I don't understand the writing.
May I ask where you're seeing that?
In the letter addressed to Mr. Maestas from the airport rescue grant, the transmittal letter, the third paragraph, more or less.
Third paragraph.
Had to do with 2 payments or 2 payments each of whatever. I can't understand what the amount is.
Give me a second. Bear with me. Let me see if I can bring that up.
Okay.
Because it is a grant, so there should be no payments.
Payments, right? Could it be referring to something else?
And that's what I want to verify before I answer that question. And what page did you say again it was on?
It's the transmittal letter to Mr. Maestas, to Leo. It would be, in terms of page, it would be the 3rd page.
Okay. So yes, Mr. Maestas represents the city. That's why he received the letter from the FAA.
And then on the question I had was also the amount of payments. Subject to the requirements, it's about the 3rd paragraph after the numerals. After the 6 conditions.
Okay, would it be on that last page with Lacey's name?
No, it's on the page before that.
Page number 1. Okay.
Okay, so that's page 1 of the Maria.
Yes, sir.
Page one of the transmission letter. Yes.
Right. And after the bullets?
After the bullets, there's one that says subject to the requirements. And then I don't understand the fiscal language.
So each payment request for reimbursement. So when let's say we were to be able to purchase a piece of equipment, we would go through the process of purchasing the equipment and we would request the FAA reimburse us for that cost. So that's saying that we must submit our request for reimbursement. That's us requesting to be compensated within this $22,000. So they don't necessarily just cut us a check for $22,000. We have to make a purchase. We have to get it approved, and then we submit that to the FAA saying this is what we want to spend the money on, and then they reimburse us for anything we've spent.
So they would be subject to approval by the city council, and any action, allotment of funding.
No, the city council approves the
Overall.
ability for us to get the 22,000, and then the division and the department itself would make a request for, let's say, purchasing of Clorox or purchasing of disinfectant. That would go through the normal procurement process, which the city manager would approve. And once it's all approved, then the city could seek reimbursement for those costs from the FAA.
Okay, so then it would be probably kept under a separate line item in reference to the grant itself, right?
So the revenues are kept under a separate line item so that finance can track what is expected to be received, in this case, $22,000. And then there's expenditure line items that we could make purchases from. We just would need to be able to correlate the two. It would have to go through the city manager, finance, and the FAA for final payment.
Let me ask you another question, then I'll get off the podium. I wanted to ask, in terms of the deciding how the money is going to be spent, who does it land on?
So the requests would come from the airport themselves as to what they need. It would go through their chain of command. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily select what they need. The airport would say, these are the things we need that meet these requirements. And then they would submit a request to purchase them and then therefore be reimbursed for those costs.
Okay, so it could be like you said, getting a water line up there or whatever whatever they feel is priority, right?
Yeah, not necessarily getting the water line to there because that's a multi-year project. We're not anywhere near being able to have a water line to the airport, but there's water lines at the airport themselves that need to be worked on. And those are sanitary issues, as well as there's always materials that are purchased every year for sanitary reasons. So anything, one way to look at it is that anything that we purchase using the FAA funds, we don't need to use city funds for. So even if it was something we were going to purchase anyways, if it meets the requirements, it has to meet the requirements of the grant. Then instead of spending city money on it, we could spend the FAA money and use the city money for something else. And all requests go through finance and the city manager and the procurement officer. So nothing can be purchased without at least 4 or 5 people signing off on it.
Okay, that was what my question was leading to. So that sounds good because you have enough management oversee of the funding, how they're going to be used. Not that there's that many, the money's not that huge, but still, it just, if you have only one person having oversight on that money on fiscal issues, then it kind of doesn't have enough checks and balances.
It's the needs of the division themselves, followed by the normal procurement protections that we have to make sure that we're not violating any state procurement rules. And then it must meet the requirements of the grant agreement. So if we went out and purchased a fuel truck and FAA did not consider that a sanitary or something that met the requirements of this grant agreement, they would refuse to reimburse us for it.
Yes, but the point is too that whoever decides what it's going to be used for, will probably make sure that it's implemented properly, that he's not buying a bunch of Clorox and tissue paper and things of that nature. Unless
that's what they need. But all of our purchases, just so you know, any purchase made in the city goes through at least 4 or 5 hands. The procurement, the accountant, the procurement officer, the finance director, the city manager, the director, the manager, and sometimes the supervisor. So there's at least 6 or 7 people involved in many of these purchases at minimum, sometimes more.
And who has the final say so?
City manager.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that somebody was.
City manager and finance director. City manager has the final say, but the finance director is also going to QA it to make sure that we're meeting the requirements of the grant.
That's good, and I'm sorry I took up so much time, but thank you very much.
That's an absolute great question, and that's something that pertains actually across the board, citywide. That sometimes people aren't aware of how many layers a single purchase, even for something as simple as a light bulb. 3 quotes and 7 people.
Okay, that's government bureaucracy, but it's a necessary evil.
It is our state procurement rules. So, and it is, as you mentioned, I think somebody mentioned the words checks and balances.
Yes,
it is our checks and balances.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do I have a motion to recommend this to the council?
I'll make a motion to approve 20-02.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mike Martinez, a second by Rudy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Well, let's move to discussion items. Do we have a monthly report of some kind, Maria?
I have a general monthly report just to give kind of an update on where we are at. In the customer service area, we are still providing the water credits. We've done 5 credits this last month. And we've had nearly 1,000 work orders and about 50 graphs. So we're still working with the community. If anybody ever has any concerns or issues with their water and they want to know maybe why their water bill is a little bit higher, they reach out to customer service and we can perform home audits and generate graphs to help recognize where there might be an issue. Just a reminder that gas rates have gone up and gas consumption has gone up. So a lot of people's bills are higher this month than they were 2 months ago. And it's not necessarily a water leak or any kind of leak. It is just the increase in the use of gas and the increase in the cost of gas nationwide and worldwide.
You know, Tricky, on one of the television stations, it was reported that the gas had gone down in that particular area. I know we don't get our gas from the same place, and that the bills will be adjusted accordingly. Will that happen in our area if it happens?
So when we get gas, first we purchase our gas from ZIA, and ZIA purchases the right to buy gas at a flat rate for a year. So they've already committed to their rate, which was a couple of dollars less per MCF than the rate that gas was in late November. So right. they using their experience, they were able to basically lock in a little bit lower rate for their customers for the next 12 months. Okay. So we're not at the whims of gas, meaning our gas rates did change in October, but they will be those rates until next October, pending anything from PRC.
Okay.
And I'm not at this point aware of any potential changes via PRC. So just to clarify, when we do the rate changes in October, it is solely based on the change in the cost of gas. That's why sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. It is not based on, and CPI, sorry, and Consumer Price Index. It is not based on ZIA's request to raise their service charge rate. Those have to go through PRC, and those happen. It takes several years for it to go through a PRC process before a company is authorized to raise, let's say, service rates, charges not associated with gas, but associated with running the company. The gas rates, on the other hand, because those are pass-through costs, it gets passed through from who ZIA buys it from, and it gets passed through directly to the city, and there are no markups on the cost of gas. What they pay is what we pay.
So that's what the whole year will remain at that rate.
That's why it'll remain at that rate. They signed a contract for 12 months at a specific rate. So
again, the Public Service Commission has oversight over these gas companies and things of this nature.
They have oversight over the gas companies that we buy our gas from, but there are only so many areas where they can control and make a decision, and that's in the way I understand it, that would be in costs that are secondary costs, like service charges or transportation charges, when they have to request from PRC that they raise those rates. The cost of gas every year either goes up or goes down, and then it's a direct pass-through. So I would expect in the next couple of years, the gas rates will go down as it has traditionally done. It goes up, and then a few years later, it goes back down again, and then goes up and comes back down again. And it fluctuates based on the supply and demand.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see. We do have a couple people that are testing for their qualifications at the water and at the wastewater plant. I don't have anybody testing for water yet, but I did want to say, and I don't remember if I mentioned this at the last meeting, I'm very proud to state that we had, I believe it was 4 employees at the wastewater plant all earn their CDLs in the months of September and October. CDL Class A's, which are tremendous. We really appreciate those employees earning their CDLs.
Great.
Don't really have a lot on the other divisions. They're maintaining their daily taskings and their weekly taskings. Water distribution has had a few leaks, especially during the wintertime. We do sometimes get more leaks. So over the past couple of weeks, or actually maybe a month and a half, you've probably seen several water lines being worked on Savino, Mills Avenue, Washington, New Mexico, Dalby, Vegas Drive, Placitas del Llano, Salazar, 10th Street, National, Lincoln. They've had some valves that have been needed to be installed here right around 12th and National. And they were working, the water distribution crews are working in conjunction with some road projects to make sure that any of the water lines needs are addressed prior to paving. So those are the divisional updates that I have.
Okay. And that was kind of like
That was
your
the monthly reports.
okay. Project status?
Project status. So the big one is Plaza National Bridge Street Road Project. As many people have seen, there's been a good majority of the roadway has been paved, and it's a nice smooth drive. Due to current temperatures, we won't be able to put any more asphalt down or any more concrete down until the temperatures warm up. So right now, that portion of the project is on hold. I believe they have finished the sewer line in front of PD. I'll have to go out there and check, but they were working on installing. So they're working on installing a couple of manholes because that line, the way it was tapped into the main on Moreno and how it was providing service to PD was not ideal. And so as part of this project, we had some manholes installed and we had that sewer line, which was an old clay sewer line. We had it replaced. So we've had water lines, gas lines, and sewer lines worked on in this project, and paving. And I know one of the things that's coming up in the general public right now is the back-in parking.
Yes.
And so to let everybody know, when this project started, one of the requests from the business owners was to help find ways to improve or to increase parking. So our engineer went and did some research, and we did some studies and reviewed some studies and found out that angled parking could increase parking maybe roughly 20%. And then the engineer looked at the area, and the north and the south side of the plaza had room to be able to do the angled parking. And then using a couple of studies and a lot of recent improvements in other communities, we made the determination to do back-in angled parking. And the purpose of the back-in angled parking is several-fold. And this was brought up in a city council meeting, and this was discussed with in the public meetings that we had. One is it increases the safety when you're leaving, because as you're leaving a parking slot, you get a clear view of oncoming traffic. It also increases the safety with loading and unloading of your tailgate, your trunk, because it is on the curbside instead of roadside. It also encourages, when you open the doors, it encourages kiddos and young adults to work their way towards the sidewalk, because the doors are that barrier. The doors of the vehicles are the barrier between heading out into the street. And so it kind of encourages pedestrian traffic leaving a vehicle to go towards the sidewalk. So it's also a safety issue. And I am currently working on a video with community development and the city manager's office to be able to give some kind of directions and help people know how to do back-in parking. The straightforward way is a back-in angled parking is half of a parallel parking maneuver. So it is half of a parallel parking maneuver instead of a full parallel parking maneuver. And again, it does give us more space. Now the inner ring around the plaza and the east and west sides of Plaza Park will remain the traditional parallel parking. So there will be options for how people want to park. If people aren't comfortable backing in, there will still be numerous parking slots that are parallel parking. We are currently in the process of putting up some signage. We did get the signs around the same time that we started striping, but we're in the process of mounting them properly. So I know there have been some questions brought up. This was actually a lot of research that was done to make this decision to improve safety and improve the number of parking slots in the plaza. And we do expect it to take a little time for some people to get comfortable with it. I know some people, I've noticed that some people have commented that they were surprised at how easy it was. Other people are not quite as happy with it, but I think over time, people will learn that it's actually a fairly easy maneuver. Other projects that we're currently working on, Peterson is still in progress. We're starting up on a Legion Road project. We're finishing up on a North Gonzales waterline project, which, by the way, if anybody's been driving in North Gonzales anytime in the last 10 years, you notice during certain times of the year we get water coming up through the roadway. That water coming up through the roadway is groundwater. Every time we get the call, we go check it out, and it's not near our water lines, and our water lines are not leaking. So it's been groundwater. So we're currently working with our engineer and our contractor on a drainage solution to get the groundwater into the storm drain system and not have it break through the cracks that are in the roadway. Got a couple other road projects. I think there's one up on Romero and Salazar we're currently working on. Let me see. Sewer line projects were, there's one happening, sewer line effluent line project that's happening between the golf course and Hanna Park. We're working on installing an effluent line between the golf course and Hanna Park. So we'll be able to water Hanna Park with effluent. So those are some of our major projects. Are there any projects I didn't mention that somebody has a question on?
The only question I have is, are the lift stations all done and down there on the industrial park area?
So one of them, I believe, is 100% complete. The other two are not totally complete yet. We did have an issue with delivery of the pumps and some other parts. We've had some delays from distributors on parts related to both the North Gonzales project and the lift station project. So, Mike, the project is still in progress. We're requesting a financial extension because the funds end in February. So we're requesting an extension for about 6 months to close everything out.
Okay, and then the other question I had was about the filter beds at the water treatment plant.
So that project is also still in progress. The contractor has the materials for the filter materials. There is some infrastructure underneath the filter material that we are trying to get on hand in case they need to be replaced, so that the filters are offline for the least amount of time as possible. Because of the complexity of this project, the impact to the filtration system, and the filtering and the quantity of water that we can filter when we go from 4 filters to 3 filters, the contractor is being told to have all the parts possible on hand before we start this project. So that project will not start until the engineer and city staff are certain that we either have parts on hand or have parts accessible in case some of that infrastructure needs to be replaced.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
It's a very wise move, but yeah.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is put in $100,000 in filter material and have to pull it out at a future date because we know that the piping needs to be replaced. So instead of doing that, we're going to have everything we can have on hand. And one of the challenges is this is an extremely old system. So we're trying to make sure we have the exact materials on hand.
Right.
So
Okay.
Mike, I might need you to remember what you installed 30 years ago.
you might have a problem. All right, and that was the only questions I had on project status.
Appreciate that, Mike. Appreciate it. And you too, Rudy. Thank you for the questions.
Yes.
Okay, announcements.
Skating rink. Has everybody gone out to try out the new skating rink?
I don't have enough pillows.
I will bring some pillows from the house. We'll set you up a little area in the corner for you.
Okay.
I understand that it is a hit in the community. A lot of people do enjoy it. Even if you don't have a chance to skate, I'd recommend you come out and take a look at it and see what we're doing for the community.
What hours is it open?
I believe it's open from 1 to 8.
Okay.
I already had to replace one knee.
Okay, there's chairs for you.
Okay.
We'll all get together and watch Rudy.
Yeah.
All right, so any other announcements? Maria,
You don't have anything? Unless you
no
have
more
something for me.
okay. Next regular meeting, February 8th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. We'll call this meeting adjourned at 2:05 p.m.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Rudy.
if anybody has any questions or concerns or wants some more information on how we're handling the Plaza Park, please have them give us a call.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Shawnee. Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good New Year.